Another day, another bender. No retreat, no surrender.
Me when the bar closes at 2 a.m.
Drink up, assholes.
Our night starts at 12:30 a.m. on Sunday, August 5th of 2013. The Pesseghinis were an average lower to middle class family living in the northern part of Sao Paulo, Brazil. It was there that 40-year-old police sergeant Luiz Marcelo Pesseghini, who had been a member of Sao Paulo's police force for 18 years, had been sleeping on a mattress in the living room. It was then that an intruder entered the room, brandishing a .40 caliber, Luis's own service weapon, And at that point, it was then that his 13-year-old son, Marcelo, raised the gun to his father's head and pulled the trigger.
Holy shit.
After pulling the trigger, his mother, Adriana Regina Bovo Pesseghini, who was asleep in the other room, was startled awake from her sleep, obviously hearing the gunshot.
Oh.
Rushing into the living room, it was there that Andrea found her husband's lifeless body and seemingly rushed over to him, or was possibly held hostage. It's kind of unclear what exactly happens, but at some point she's kneeling over his body, and that is when her son goes behind him, aims the gun to the mother's head, and fires the gun. It was from there that he walks over to where his great-aunt, 55-year-old Bernadette Oliveira de Silva, and his grandmother, 67-year-old Benedita Oliveira Bovo, resided. Now, the family had lived on this large plot of land and had lived in 2 separate compounds on that land. So when the shots had rang out, killing Marcelo's mother and father, the great-aunt and grandmother were too far away at that point to hear the shots, so they were still asleep.
You would think they would still hear the shots, kind of.
It makes me think that possibly like a silencer or something. I mean, they didn't find one on the scene. They did find the gun with him, as we'll go on to later. But
yeah, or maybe depending on the gun, like I don't know the different kinds of guns, they might be just more quiet.
Yeah, and it didn't say like how far away the property was from one another, and we don't know, like maybe they're just really heavy sleepers and they didn't hear. I mean,
right.
So many different things could have gone into that. It's just really hard to say, but for whatever reason, they did not wake up when those 2 shots were carried out. So Marcelo then makes his way out of the main house and goes into the house where his great aunt and grandmother are sleeping. It's from there where he enters his grandmother's, Benedita's, room, and she is Andrea's mother, so his maternal grandmother. And from there, she is shot in the head. Now, this is at close enough range where the great aunt Bernadette is actually awoken from her sleep at the sound of the grandmother being shot. But it's too late even for her to wake up right in that moment. I think they had slept in beds like right next to each other. There is like a diagram of the crime scene. It's not an actual photo, but just rather like a drawing. It does seem like, so the grandmother's bed, the covers were completely over, like she was laying down to sleep. But with Bernadette, it does seem like she had kind of like almost been jolted awake. The covers had been moved down as if she had gotten up. But either way, she had been shot in the head and was killed while she was still in her bed. So she didn't even have enough time to get out. Yeah, I mean, it was automatic.
God.
Yeah.
All of these headshots.
And only 1 shot to each of them.
Wow.
Super creepy and like professional. Yeah. Honestly, it's chilling.
He had clearly handled a gun before.
Well, yeah, we'll get into detail about it, but it's also like, could he have? It's just, we'll get into it. So it was then that 13-year-old Marcelo, the son of Andrea and Luis, after killing his entire family, packed his backpack with 350 reais, which it's equivalent to like 150 US dollars. So along with the 350 reais, he also had his grandmother's credit card, 5 rolls of toilet paper, a change of clothes, a knife, as well as a .32 caliber pistol. Now from there, he stole his mom's car and proceeded to head to school, which was just 3 miles or 4.82 kilometers away.
My God. So he was headed to school for the day?
Yeah.
So it was the next morning by that point?
He killed them Sunday late into the night. And so Monday, he drives to the parking lot near the school and gets there at 1:25 a.m. Sleeps in the car until 6:23 a.m., which at that point, the security cameras and CCTV around the area catch him getting out of the car, or a boy at least resembling Marcelo, leaving the car and making his way towards the school. So supposedly after these killings, he just chills in the car and
Got to keep that perfect attendance up.
You gotta do what you gotta do to... I mean, that's just the last thing I would want to do after
so
killing my
weird, though.
parents.
I'm sorry, if I was ever able to even kill someone, I don't think I could act normal after and just go to school and proceed throughout my life.
Well, and for the most part, like, he was completely calm. So he did admit to 2 of his friends that he had just killed his relatives.
Oh.
But after that, he was just like, yeah, this is just going to be my last day. Like, I just killed him. It's my last day. It's whatever. And
checking out, dude.
His friends ignored him. But I mean, like, according to his friends, this is how he talked all the time.
Just outlandish.
He would constantly bring up the idea of creating a peer group, which he would call the mercenaries. And the whole purpose of this group would be to kill their parents and bad people such as corrupt politicians.
Oh, my God.
So it wasn't untypical for them to hear something like this. So when he says that, they're like, oh, he's just being Marcello. It's whatever. Like, he didn't really do that. Like, what 13-year-old would? And so they just kind of ignore it and go about the school day. And everything else goes completely without a hitch, goes fine and dandy. As soon as school finishes up, he asks a friend if that friend's dad can take him home. And the dad's like, yeah, sure, I'll take you home. So he asks the friend's dad on the way back to Marcello's house if he can actually stop at the mom's car, which at this point he's abandoning. And once they get to the car, he goes in, gets the mom's keys, and then gets back in the car. I don't know if maybe he like needed the keys to get into the house. It doesn't really like go into detail. It's just a detail that he does ask to go to this car, gets the keys, and then goes back.
Okay.
So after that, they make their way back to Marcello's home, and once they drop him off, Marcello proceeds to walk inside and go into the living room where his parents' dead bodies are.
Ew. What does he do? Does he just chill?
It's then that he strokes his mother's hair one last time before aiming the gun to his left temple and pulling the trigger.
Oh, God. Shock waves just went through my entire body.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
The sweet child of the Pesseghini household had seemingly murdered his police officer parents, maternal grandmother, and great aunt before turning the gun on himself and committing suicide.
After going to school, like, everything was okay. Oh, my God.
After going to school for an entire day. Why? I would have just done it.
Yeah.
So not worth it.
But that also kind of shows some of his... You know, how he was calm. It kind of shows how he was definitely thinking semi-clearly, like he wanted to go say goodbye. He knew it was his last day. He was planning
like he did
this.
Tell friends, like, hey, I'm going to be gone after this. I don't know. It's very
like when he
eerie.
first said that, he said it's going to be my last day. I assumed maybe he just knew he was going to get caught or something, and he knew he was going to be taken away. I just, like, did not assume he was going to kill himself.
Yeah. It was a shock to a lot of people.
Good one.
I gotta keep that one in, probably.
Yeah, that was good.
Sorry about that. Woo, you know this beer just does it to me. If you do not like burps, I'm sorry. But we're probably still gonna keep doing it.
It's a bodily function that we can't contain or control.
If you want us to provide bodily content, then we gotta keep drinking.
Yeah, my nose is oozing and Kristen is gassy.
Oh my God, I think everyone just clicked off right now.
Whoops.
Okay, so it wasn't until early Tuesday, like early Tuesday before dawn. Some sources I even get like Monday night, so
Okay.
like early morning.
Yeah.
Coworkers had decided to show up to the household to do a wellness check after Andrea had failed to show up for work that day. And that's when they found all 5 bodies and immediately called the police. So as soon as they arrived, they saw that each of the family members had died from a gunshot wound to the head, with the exception of Andrea, who was found with a bullet wound in the back of the neck, which is consistent of someone going behind her and shooting her. And she was also found kneeling over the bed, like still kneeling over her husband. So it seems like someone literally just went up and execution styled her while she was over her husband grieving, basically, is in my mind what I imagine, which is just like so fucked up. So
the terror.
Yeah. So like I had mentioned before, the great aunt and grandmother were found in their beds. There are diagrams of this, or diagrams. I don't, not diaphragms. I'm sorry. There are diagrams of this. Oh my god, I'm so embarrassed. I don't really want to post them. If you Google the case, you can find it. I just don't feel comfortable doing that, and I don't want to do that. I know it's just a drawing, but still, just out of respect. But if you want to do that, you can, and you can see basically where the bullets entered, how the bodies looked when they were found, as well as just like certain details with the hands, which we'll get into. So once the officers found the bodies, they immediately started looking around, trying to gather any evidence of what had happened, because at this point they just had no idea. It was at that point that they found no sign of forced entry, and it was basically at that point where they were like, dang, I really think this 13-year-old did it. They take the bodies there. They see that he's one of the last to die. Also, according to Marcelo's psychiatric report that was made after his death, he had suffered from a hypoxic encephalopathy, which is a lack of oxygen in the brain. And that basically caused him to develop an encapsulated delusion, which led him to have delusional ideas and confuse reality with fiction.
Holy shit. That's so crazy they can discover that post-mortem. Like a post-mortem psychiatric evaluation. I didn't know that was a thing, I guess.
Yeah, like fucking science. It amazes me what people can do. I have no idea how they figured that out. I'm sure like the brain looked a certain way. I don't know. Scientists, let us know.
Go science.
Yeah, you all are fucking amazing, because I couldn't even imagine. But this discovery could actually explain some of the behavior that people were seeing in him in the months leading up to his death. So like I had said, his friends were saying like, oh, Marcelo was just that was just natural for him to say all of those things, say kind of outlandish, cruel, harsh things.
Fantasies and things,
And it also did mention in some of the articles that I found, that he was suffering from a health problem, but it didn't specify which.
I wonder if it was like sealed or something.
I have no idea. It was really hard to get a lot of information on like the background of this family, but he just had something going on, so he didn't move around a lot. He wasn't very athletic. Like, he loved video games. He loved hanging out with his family. He just seemed like a normal kid. He just had some kind of issue which seemed to make him not be able to be as active, from what I gathered. I could be wrong, but there was very, very limited information on that. But I did find that. Officials had also interviewed 9 of the friends after the bodies were discovered. And that was when, allegedly, one of the friends had said that he had always wanted to become a hired killer, and that he had planned to kill his parents during the night so that no one would notice. He would escape in the parents' car, and he would live in an abandoned place. Along with this, they also asked the school staff about his behavior, and that is when the school coordinator said that she had actually received complaints from children who claimed to be threatened with death by Marcelo. So she went to question him about his behavior and basically say like, hey, why are you threatening all of these kids, saying that you want to kill him? And he was just like, oh, I'm joking. It's not real.
Right.
And, yeah, and I guess she was just like, okay, thanks for clarifying that. You're good to go. It was also, I guess, around that time that he had said that his mother had taught him how to drive and that his father had taught him how to shoot.
Of course.
Yeah. So after this statement, it really didn't come as a shock when they dug through the house to find out that Marcelo was a pretty big gun enthusiast, when they went to search his room, they found out that he had a large collection of gun toys and also had a protective breastplate that was made of cardboard.
Oh.
That he had, like, made himself.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
And so on top of this, when you dig into Marcelo's social media, you, of course, find interesting things as well that make this even a little bit more eerier. Marcelo had a large obsession with a certain serial killer named Ronald DeFeo Jr.
Oh.
Better known as the murderer behind the 1974 Amityville murders.
Ah.
You know, the one where the brother went around with a rifle, shot and killed his mother, father, 2 brothers, and 2 sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the murder proceeded to go to work and do his job like nothing had happened.
Took some notes there, didn't he?
So he showed photos of the crime scene, or he had posted photos of the crime scene, as well as an infamous ghost shot that was taken inside of the house afterwards by Ed and Lorraine Warren, which I don't think we'll ever do the Amityville house. It's very popular. A lot of people have done great episodes on it, but if you haven't ever, if you look up Amityville house, little boy, there's a photo of supposedly one of the brothers that had died, like, peering out of the doorway in clear view. It is the creepiest photo, and if it is real, it will give you chills, because supposedly when they took that photo, no one was in that hallway. But it's just like...
Ew, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, creepy.
Ew.
Yeah.
That's not a real boy?
No, that's one of the brothers.
Its eyes. Oh my gosh, I have that feeling of, like, ants crawling over your entire body.
It was like 3 a.m, and I was listening to a podcast about it, and I looked up that photo. Instant regret, because I was terrified and I did not go to sleep that night. Oh, it's so bad. But he had posted that to his Facebook along with, like, other crime scene photos or photos relating to the case.
Yeah.
And it just gave really eerie similarities, and it kind of was hitting the nail in the coffin with this, like, wow, he really wanted to emulate the serial killer. They also found that he had changed his profile picture to an Assassin's Creed character about a month before the killing, which had correlated to him, like, losing grip with reality and wanting to become a hitman and violence in video games, and it's all correlated. And to me, it's all a bunch of BS. And you want to know why?
Why?
Because the whole half of what I've just said, I think, is a little bit of BS too. Because in my opinion, I do not think that this 13-year-old killed his entire family. And
you don't?
That is why this case is so baffling. Did I catch your attention?
Yeah.
That was the whole point. That's why it took me so long to write this.
Oh my gosh. So I have goosebumps for the 164th time this episode. What the hell?
So yeah, you would obviously think that this is an open and shut case, right? I mean, the evidence is there. The CTV is there. The fucking weapon is there.
Uh-huh.
But this is the Red Rum and Red Wine podcast, baby.
Bitches.
No. So, according to relatives, yes, the marriage between Luis and Andrea was a little rocky. They had some financial problems. The son had health issues that they couldn't afford. There were rumors of some infidelity, possibly by Andrea. But nonetheless, there were no reports of domestic violence. There were no significant disturbances that were made to the house. Really nothing out of the ordinary. You look at photos of these families and this family, and we will post it. But they look completely happy. They just look like a normal family. So it brings to question why. Why does this seem so wrong, even though all the evidence seems like it would be there? Well, that's because it's not really, not when you look deep into it.
Oh.
And his relatives agree as well. Sebastian de Oliveira Costa, Andrea's brother, believes that there's no way that this 13-year-old would be able to lift a hefty .40 caliber weapon and fire once into each victim. He said, it makes no sense. This gun is a heavy gun. He wouldn't have had the strength to shoot it, let alone to only be able to aim it and shoot once.
Yeah. With, like, precision to the head.
Yeah. He also had a cousin, Sandra Alves Vitosa, who said if it was Marcelo who did it, then it was a force of evil. He was a boy who was loving and loved by all. He had never even gotten into a fight at school. And this is true. He had no history of violence, and those who had talked about him and had been around him said that he had loved and adored his parents. And it's when you dig into his parents' background where things get interesting.
Oh.
Once the bodies were found, obviously investigators are going to start questioning everything that's going around. And when they went to commander of the 18th Military Police Battalion, Cole Wagner Dimas Peria, that they find out that Marcelo's mother, Andrea, had actually been turning in criminal cops in the months leading up to her death. It was actually Piera who put his title out on the line by voicing his doubts, saying that there was no way that Marcelo could have really carried this out and that he was instead the fifth victim of a terrible plot for revenge.
Oh.
Andrea had caught on that some of the officers in her group were stealing money from bank machines and immediately decided to turn them in. Now, she didn't give names or specifics, but she did give enough detail for police to catch who was actually doing it and and it led to the removal of those officers.
Oh.
Now, it also should be noted that at the time of the family's death, none of the officers that Andrea had turned over were charged with a crime yet because the investigation was still ongoing. And after the family had died, nothing came of that investigation. They were never charged with anything.
Sketchy.
I don't know how trial works, if like she was a key witness that needed to be there in order to like testify, just because this is international.
Yeah.
Court system's not the same, so I don't know if that could have been a motive, but to me it's definitely interesting, and I had to throw it in there. Right, like
she was a key player in it, and after her death it fell apart or stopped or whatever.
And it doesn't help that Sao Paulo's police are regarded as some of the most corrupted officers in the fucking world.
Oh.
And this police force has been privy to scandal in the past. It's actually widely suspected that the military police have their own death squads in tow and are responsible for countless mass killings and illegal executions throughout Brazil.
Oh.
Like,
yeah, I mean, yeah.
Brazil, unfortunately, is very well known for its violence. And
it's unfortunate. It seems like a really beautiful place.
It is, and it's really,
aside from that,
it's really unfortunate how much of the killing is done by the hands of the government that's supposed to supposedly protect their people. So, my heart really goes out to Brazil. We have a listener in Brazil, so
hey,
hi. So sorry. Hope I'm pronouncing everything right. But yeah, it's fucked up. In the January 2 years after the family had died, 6 military police officers were charged with killing 7 people in a bar in the Campo Limpo district of Sao Paulo. A lot of police brutality going on, and a lot of it happening to innocent victims throughout the community. Marcelo's father, Luis, was also involved in the police force and had even recently been promoted to the role of sergeant in the force's elite Rota unit. I think I said that wrong, so sorry. That's an armed SWAT team made for rapid response. But that organization was also under fire for violent crimes when in 2011 they had 2 cases where suspected criminals were murdered by the Rota police. And after that, there was another instance in 2012 that had actually led to the death of 6 armed gang members that were killed. And once that happened, total chaos happened in Brazil. We're talking hundreds of citizens and police were killed in retaliation for those instances of gang members being killed by police, by that Rota unit.
Yeah.
So the violence would go on for months, and it's only a year before this family was killed and the father was a part of this certain group. So it does leave question as to both of these parents did have reason as to why someone in the police force or gang related would want them out. And also Marcelo, like, yeah, I get it. His group was to kill parents or whatever, but I think it's interesting that it also had like corrupt politicians. Like maybe towards the end, it may have been some kind of delusion, but I think his parents definitely had tried to instill that mindset of good overcomes evil. Don't do evil, be the good person.
Right.
If you're going to be a cop, don't be a bad cop, be a good cop. At least that's what it seems. So it's just gets so sad, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. But not only was there potential motive elsewhere in this case, there was also physical evidence that just spoke loads to this investigation and blew a lot of the theories that I had said in the beginning completely out of the water.
Really?
So, yes, they saw that the house hadn't been broken into.
Mm-hmm.
But according to first responders, according to the coroner that was there, the scene had almost certainly been disturbed before their arrival at around 7 p.m.
Okay.
According to Sanguinetti, who was the coroner that did this report, he said that the position of Marcelo's body is incompatible with suicide, stating it is very clear by the position of the corpses that the three were murdered. The position in which the boy fell, with the right hand on the left side of the head and the left arm folded back with the left palm open up, is not compatible with the position of suicide. Now, like I said, I won't be posting the diagram photos, but you can look them up, and it does have a drawing of this position, and it does look awkward. It looks very weird, not how it would seem if someone had just shot themselves.
Right.
He also affirmed that Andrea's body was placed where it was found. So there was no way that her body would have naturally fallen in the position that it was found. So like I said, her body was found kneeled over the bed where her husband was sleeping. So that body part was on the mattress, and it corresponds to 15% of the victim's body mass. The remaining weight should have caused the body to fall onto the floor, not just fall and stay on the bed.
Yeah.
Meaning she was placed there, not that she fell and stayed there.
Right. Ooh, that's odd.
And the fact that fucks me up the most and makes this case nearly impossible in my mind.
Okay.
Marcelo's dad, Luis, according to the autopsy, had died 10 hours before anyone else in the house had died.
What the fuck?
Meaning that if Marcelo had shot his dad, and I don't know why they would be asleep at this time if it was 10 hours before, but if she happened to be asleep and woke up, that means that Marcelo would have had to have held his mother, who was a trained police force woman, and the great aunt and grandmother over 10 hours in that house before killing them and placing their bodies in the bed and the mom over the dad.
Unless that time of death is wrong, but this is in 2013, so
for the most part it seems like it would be up to par. I mean, obviously holes can be poked, but
that's weird.
With the police corruption involved, it could be very understandable as to why
it'd be a cover-up.
Something like this would try to be hidden.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it doesn't make sense why they would falsely report it if they are trying to get the evidence that Marcelo did it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this coroner is really just trying. He's the one that like pokes the hole in this whole theory. It was said that Marcelo didn't have any traces of gunshot residue on his hands. He had there were no fingerprints that were left on the firearm that that was found next to Marcelo's body.
Okay.
And even the coroner, Sanguinetti, tries to play devil's advocate and say they didn't do the tests like they should have. They should have conducted tests only by washing his hands in serum, but they removed pieces of the skin to investigate residues, and they would find it. I don't know. So he's trying to say that they had done the action of trying to get the residue off in a bad way. Mm-hmm. It may have been that was the reason that no gunshot residue was popping up, but he tries to really play very in the middle as to how this investigation goes, at least from what I have read.
Right.
It's also should be noted that they found defensive wounds on Marcelo's hands when they were doing the autopsy. And they also found what was described as a fast sprinkling of blood on his palm, which wouldn't have been possible if he would have been holding the gun shooting everyone.
Okay.
There were also bloodstain patterns found on the wall that were reportedly incompatible with the shots fired by someone of Marcelo's height. So he was only 5 foot tall, 1.524 meters. I don't know what the hell you internationals use. But despite all of this, so they were basically saying like the blood spatter on the wall was too high. Someone who was taller than 5 foot should have been the one aiming the gun, not someone at his height.
Okay.
And on top of that, the gun was found in his left hand. His relatives insisted that he used his right hand.
Mm-hmm.
So aside from the obvious inconsistencies with the gun being found in Marcelo's left hand versus his right hand, there's the obvious questioning over if it was even possible for a 13-year-old to have enough experience to successfully shoot and kill his parents, who are military trained, as well as his relatives, all with each giving them a single shot. Like professional, like sniper execution style, going in and getting shit done.
Right.
So even though he did confess to others that, yes, my parents have taught me how to shoot, most speculate that he would have at least shot them twice to ensure that they were dead, just due to the fact that it was his first killing alone. Like, he's not experienced. He may be experienced to shoot a gun, but I don't know. I mean, I think that I've seen enough zombie movies where I just automatically go double tap.
Right.
So I think it's weird for a young boy who loves video games to not want to do that, or maybe he thinks like if I shoot him in the head, no matter what, they'll all die. But I don't know. You would just think a 13-year-old, his first time committing murder, like no experience shooting anyone in the head other than whatever practice his parents has given him, which I don't know the extent of it. Like, it's hard to think that he wouldn't have just at least done like a graze wound. Like someone may have accidentally survived. Like it would have been a graze to the side.
Or like he would have at least missed a shot. And
yeah.
I don't know.
We hear all the time about people getting shot in the head and surviving. So for an unprofessional 13-year-old to be aiming a gun at a head and shooting, it seems real unlikely to me that he would hit it. But I mean, we've been surprised in the past.
Right.
I really don't know.
But he was at school on Monday. Like, that's confirmed, right?
Confirmed, yeah.
So somehow his family was killed and he still went to school, and he did steal his mom's car, and that's confirmed.
Yes.
So that's just so strange.
So, and it gets even stranger.
Ooh.
So the CCTV footage of Marcelo walking to school after the murders also has come into legitimacy. So some believe that he was actually not alone in the car, and then there are some who believe that it wasn't even Marcelo at all.
Okay.
So lawyers do point out that it does appear that someone is getting out of the car shortly before Marcelo did, but it's never been officially proven. He also did some weird things with his blinker. He had activated his blinker 4 times in the parking lot, which people thought were really unusual. And a lot of people chalked it up to this kid doesn't know how to drive. And it was even like his paternal grandparents had even come out and said, we, knowing the family, know that this boy does not know how to drive. It would be really shocking if it turned out that he knew how.
Okay.
So they see him do the weird thing with the blinker in the CCTV, and they're like, oh, well, that's weird. Let's see what's going on. Well, shortly after his blinker goes off, 2 cars with tinted windows immediately drive by.
Huh.
And it looks suspicious, but that's really all it is. It's suspicious. Nothing comes of it. Nothing else is said about it. That's all they give you. It's just, there are some weird events going on. There's maybe someone getting out of the car, maybe 2 vehicles with tinted windows that are observing the car. Maybe it's not even Marcelo. They got a kid that looks like Marcelo. But even then, when he went into school, his friends know who that is. And they said, like, yes, he was at school. And he even said, oh, I killed my parents.
Yeah.
Yada, yada.
What the hell?
And lastly, they have the psychological evaluation that was given to establish motive.
Right.
Well, it was not done by a forensic specialist, like all cases are required to be done by.
Oh.
It was done by a third party.
Mm-hmm.
This third party didn't even bother interviewing relatives or acquaintances. It completely ignored standard procedure for psychological evaluation of this kind of status.
Wow. Of course.
But even with all of this counter evidence, police are still adamant that Marcelo is their guy.
Okay.
And I don't really know. That's really all that they have left on the case. Marcelo's paternal grandparents to this day stand by their grandson, saying that he is innocent and merely a victim of the police brutality that happens within Brazil. And along with the people of Brazil, they really think that this 13-year-old kid didn't do it. He was just a victim.
Mm-hmm.
The most recent attempt to open this case in 2018 was denied, but the people of Brazil still remain hopeful and hope that one day the truth will come to light.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But with the corruption in Brazil and the potential cover-up done by the police investigating this case, it's really hard to say if we will ever get any justice unless people talk about this and
oh my God,
let people know what is up, what's happening, like this is going on, and someone needs to look deeper. Because I was a 13-year-old that liked weird shit. Like, I don't think it's weird that you're posting Amityville shit. I was intensely Googling anything scary that I could get my hands on.
I knew how to drive at 13, for sure.
Yeah. I didn't know how to use a gun.
No.
But he had police officer parents. But it's just the professionalism of it, the only doing one shot behind the back execution style. It's so cold-hearted.
Yeah.
And
if it was done by a professional, they would know how to easily make it look like frame it to look like a different crime had been committed. So. And,
really, who's to...
And the gun didn't have any...
I think that there are way too many discrepancies with this case for you to say it's closed and that Marcelo did it.
Right. I agree. Wow.
But yeah, that is the tragic and unresolved case of the Pesseghini family murders, and it's devastating. And honestly, I have not heard a lot of people talk about this one. It is very under the radar. Thank you so much to that Reddit user for popping this up. Otherwise, I would have never heard of this. But it's just, we truly don't understand how bad other places can have it sometimes. And it's truly devastating to hear what other people go through in their lives and how people live their everyday lives in fear of their own fucking police force and government. We still have that problem in America, but just to have these problems, to have such bad corruption. We experience it everywhere, but to this degree, it's just devastating, truly devastating.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I had never heard of that one.
Yeah, it was intense. There's really, really not a lot of information out there on this one. But unfortunately, with international cases, that's sometimes what happens, especially if it's some type of cover-up. They're going to want to give you as limited information as possible. But if you want, you can definitely Google this, check it out. But it's a doozy for sure. But yeah, tell people about it. It needs to be heard. I really hope that someday we can give an update and say that this case has been reopened, because there's a lot of unanswered questions that need to be looked into.
Hell yeah.
But
well, thank you.
Yeah, man. Sorry to kill your day buzz a little bit, but hey, it's still bright outside. We can soak in some serotonin and vitamin D and hopefully feel better. But if that doesn't make you feel better, then go right on over to our Twitter and Instagram, where we post daily at
RARW podcast. And we are on YouTube now. Don't forget that. So you can listen to our audio on our YouTube channel.
And we'll maybe post something with us one day. Who knows?
Yeah. It's ever evolving. So definitely check us out on socials. And thank you for listening.
Yeah, if you have any suggestions, let us know. And always rate, subscribe, tell a friend. And until next time, this has been Red Rum
and Red One.
Bye.
Bye.